Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Hannah Malcom, and I'm the Stormwater Outreach and Education Coordinator for Lexington County. Today, for Stormwater Awareness Week, we're doing a little seminar series. I'm going to be presenting on water quality testing, and then one of our consultants with WSP named Karen Jackson is going to also do a separate presentation. So if you haven't had a chance to watch hers, go ahead and check that out. She'll kind of help fill in some of the more regulatory gaps when it comes to water quality testing. But yeah, so we're just going to go into very much the basics today, just a little introduction to what water quality testing is, the biological and chemical components of water quality testing as it's performed by us in Lexington County. And we are not scientists, we're not, any kind of scientific research place. This is just very introductory basic information. So yeah, today we're going to talk a little bit about the why, the where, the how, the implications and mitigation of water quality testing, water pollution, and stormwater runoff. Just a little background on myself. Once again, my name is Hannah Malcom. I'm the Stormwater Outreach Coordinator for the county. I'm currently doing my master's at the University of South Carolina. I'm doing it in Environmental Health Sciences, and this is actually a program in the Arnold School of Public Health. I started in January. I'm still in it right now. I'm really getting rolling on my thesis right now, which is fun and stressful. And a lot of what I do here at the county is relating to my degree, so that's really awesome. I started working for Lexington County just in April, so about 6 months ago. I help provide educational opportunities, start up and continue outreach programs with the county regarding to stormwater, education and awareness, and then also I've been recently helping out with this water quality monitoring, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So kind of just like a little bit background, water quality testing aims to monitor impairment of local waterways through biological and chemical methods. Results can help locate the source of contamination and prevent future spread. So this is really important. And then the blurb kind of at the bottom states that healthy waters are crucial for biodiversity, climate regulation, and human livelihoods. So we're kind of going to talk about this a little bit later, but to keep in the back of your head, this concept of One Health. If humans, animals, and plants are healthy, that's what we're aiming for when we're talking about water quality testing. So here's a little graph I kind of just made really quick of some of our waterways in Lexington County. Just 3 of them. We test several sites. The y-axis here is talking about the concentration of bacteria, so an amount. And then as you can see on the x-axis, it's the seasons. And so do you see kind of any trends in the graph? And maybe think for a second like why this trend might exist. So as we can see in this graph, it's kind of peaking right here in the spring, and then one line is starting to peak in the summer. So what are we starting to see? We're starting to see really high levels of bacteria in our warmer months. That kind of checks out. As the months begin to warm, the seasons start to change, everybody's very excited to be able to go outside, to swim, to spend more time outside with family, friends, with their pets. So seeing an increase in bacteria is not something that is really to be unexpected. But this is just kind of a good representation to show that there are very, very, very high levels of bacteria in some of our waterways. In fact, over 88% of our waterways in Lexington County are contaminated with either human and or pet waste, which is not something anybody likes when they're swimming or playing or letting their dog or children play in local waterways. So you might be wondering, there's a lot of rivers, there's a lot of streams, lakes, ponds, etc. in Lexington County. Are we testing all of them? Which ones are we testing? So Karen will go in a little bit more into depth on this 303D list in her presentation. So if you're interested in that, please make sure to watch her presentation. But basically, formerly DHEC, now DES, the South Carolina Department of Environmental Services, provides us a list, the 303D list. These are impaired waterways. Once a waterway becomes impaired and gets placed on this 303D list, they are on it for the rest of their lives. No matter how much we improve the quality of that waterway. They're stuck on it for life, and we will continue to monitor them. So they actually provide us with specific sampling locations that we are required to test at least once each season every year to fulfill our MS4 permit requirements. Once again, Karen will talk a little bit more about MS4 permits and what that is. So for Lexington County, the ones that myself and my boss, Vance Falmer, the environmental coordinator, are responsible for monitoring, there are 12 of them. This is a screenshot for one of our GIS programs that's kind of got a little, you can kind of see the kind of dots that are around showing where we test. So as far kind of northwest as Irmo area, we're getting kind of down into the KC West Columbia area, and then out kind of heading towards Batesburg part of Lexington. So we're kind of getting a really good comprehensive view of Lexington County through this 303D list. Once again, 12 waterways. Another thing that we can sample is if a citizen of Lexington County complains to us. So these additional waterways are tested if we receive a complaint. For example, if they saw a neighbor dumping something into a river, dumping something down a storm drain, if they see any kind of evidence of illicit discharge, maybe the water is foamy, maybe it smells bad, maybe there's a dead animal carcass or something floating in the river. If there's any kind of concern like this, that's made known to us, we can go out and test the water to make sure that it's in a spot that we like, biologically and chemically wise. So what does it look like when we go collecting samples? These aren't pictures from Lexington County. I took them from the internet. But there's two types of samples that can be done. We really only ever do the grab sample. So this is the entire volume. The whole sample is taken all at once at one site. Technically, if you look up the definition according to the EPA, it needs to be taken within 15 minutes. The only reason why it would take this long to collect something is if the water is dripping very slowly out of a storm drain, but often we're seeing enough flow. We usually sample right after, even sometimes during a rain event, so the water is really flowing. We don't commonly have issues with getting a sample within 15 minutes. Another type of stormwater sample that you can take is called a composite sample. So alquats, or small amounts, are taken over an extended sampling period, usually within 24 hours. So you'll fill up a little bit, keep the container of water in the fridge, come back in 5 hours, sample again, something like that. We don't really, the kind of science that we're doing does not really allow for that. So we're just really doing our grab sample. We're grabbing the whole 100 milliliters and we're taking it to be tested. But as you can see right here from the pictures, this is often what it looks like when Vance and I go out into the field and sample. We have our gloves on, we have our little containers, and we're by a stormwater drain where it's emptying into either a river or a stormwater pond. And we're getting down, we're getting dirty on our, our hands and knees sometimes to collect this sample. Okay, so some proper handling guidelines, just a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to sampling is these, once again, these are not my pictures, but our sample containers look pretty much exactly like that. They hold 100 milliliters of water, and we fill it all the way to the top. We got to get it to that 100 ml line. They're sterile, so we don't want anything contaminating it, and they often have a preservative in it. And so we collected in that. We label it with the site location. Each site that we test has its special little name that we write, an ID, for lack of a better term, on the container. Who collected it, what time we collected it, what day we collected it, all that good information. While we're driving around collecting these samples, we usually have, or not usually, we always have an ice chest in the back full of ice that we put the water samples on before we bring them to the lab to be tested. And these have to be tested within 6 hours, just to ensure that, the bacteria that's there is still going to be there by the time it's being tested. And then also something important to note is that this whole process is a legal process. And so therefore we have a chain of custody procedure that we have to follow to ensure that the potential evidence that we collect is authentic and that it maintains its legal integrity, especially when we're working with, we'll talk about in a second, with a laboratory, when we're not doing the testing in-house, when we're sending it to a laboratory to be tested, if there are high levels of contamination of some sort, and the reason why we were performing that testing was because a citizen made a complaint and they have evidence such as video or photo of someone dumping something in a river down a storm drain, then these samples, the results of these samples could, get brought up in court if legal action is taken against a person for illicit discharge or illicit dumping into a storm drain. So yes, the chain of custody report is very, very important. Okay, so we'll take kind of a turn for a second and dive into the biological analysis side. So like, what are we exactly looking for in these water samples? So a term that's good to get familiar with is called coliform bacteria. And basically what that means is this is just an umbrella term for different species, different types of bacteria that are always present in the digestive tracts of mammals. So this is including humans, this is including, animals like dogs and cats and deer and other wildlife that exist in nature. They're found in our waste, and so if they use the bathroom and it gets into the water, coliform bacteria. But certain species of coliform bacteria also just naturally exist in plants and in soil material, and so it's that's why it's such an umbrella term. It can't, if you see a type of bacteria that's a type of coliform bacteria, you can't always with 100% certainty say this is from human waste. It might just have naturally been existing in the soil. Total coliforms also make up, they're present in the gut of the warm-blooded animals, and they're considered a more accurate indication for pet waste than total coliforms, which we're not going to talk about today. But yeah, and here's a fun little graphic. As you can see the little poop on the side. If it rains, then the bacteria from that poop is getting into a waterway, and then if you drink it, it's getting into you. So more specifically, this is probably the most common, dare I say, bacteria species that most people know. E. coli is found in human feces and animal feces, but some strains, it's important to note, are really harmful. They produce toxins that can cause serious illness in humans, and this is typically more often than not what is causing food poisoning. If you get food poisoning, it could be E. coli, it could be another type of bacteria, but this is a very common type. Here are some images of what it looks like under an electron microscope, what it looks like under just a normal light microscope, and what it looks like when you make colonies on a little agar plate right there. But yes, so when we are doing our testing, we're mainly looking for E. coli. So once again, kind of here's a little graph to visualize everything that I just said. We have our total coliforms, we have our fecal coliforms, total being the ones that are in the soil and the environment. The fecal are only the ones that are found in feces. E. coli is within that, and then even within E. coli are pathogenic or toxic strains of E. coli. The most common, most serious being the O157H7. That's just the serotype for the species for E. coli. So if we decide to do in-house testing, which we're starting to do a little bit more of now that we have some equipment, this is an awesome, really easy to use process called a Petri film. We use the one that's made by 3M. And basically what it is you have this little piece of paper that, that kind of looks like this. And as you can see in that top picture, there's a flap that lifts up. And there's a little pink purple kind of circle with a grid on it. And what we do is we take our stormwater sample, we dilute it, we do a 1 to 10 dilution, and then we pipette that water onto the surface. We close the lid on it and let it spread out, sit for a second, and then we stick it into an incubator for 24 hours. So at that certain temperature, it really facilitates the growth of the E. coli. So then we come back the next day, we pull the Petri film out of the incubator, and if there's E. coli present, as this bottom picture is showing, it will look like that. There will be little blue colonies with air bubbles. If there's any other kind of colony, like a red colony, that could be some type of other coliform, total coliform bacteria. But what we're really looking for with E. coli specifically is what this picture is showing, blue with gas bubbles. We'll count them and quantify them, and that will give us a report on approximately how much bacteria is present in the waterway. Another service that we utilize to do these counts for us is Access Analytical. They're a company located in Irmo, South Carolina. They're an environmental laboratory. They do testing for us. They, of course, have very sophisticated equipment. They're regulated, and so their results are very accurate. So right now, kind of what we're doing is testing alongside Access Analytical. We're doing our Petri film in-house at the county, and then we're also having Access Analytical doing the real actual science, and we're comparing our results. And so far, the couple times that we've been doing testing, they've lined up pretty well. So our methods that we're doing in-house are proving to be quite accurate, which is awesome. The main reason that we're also doing the Petri film is just so that we can get a really quick answer. We're not having to drive to Access Analytical. We're not having to drop off the samples, do the chain of custody, wait for them to do the testing, wait for them to send us the results back, look at the report, all that stuff. We just do it in-house. We're eliminating kind of all this middleman stuff. Now, of course, we need Access Analytical more often than not because we need those official, solid, scientific, accurate results. But if we just want to try to test out something really quick, it's really good to just do it in-house to get kind of a gauge of where we're at with the waterway. Another thing that we are capable of doing is chemical analysis. This is not done as frequently as a biological, but we do have a stormwater testing kit for these chemical constituents. So the main things that the kit has or allows us to test for is pH, chlorine, heavy metals. This one only does copper, but others might be able to test for other types of heavy metals, detergents, and phenols. Excuse me. The pH of water is very important. If it's too acidic or it's too basic, it's not going to be viable for certain marine life, for organisms that are living in there, like fish species, plant species. If it gets off kilter one way or another, it can cause harmful algal blooms to grow. It can, tannins can be infiltrated. It can cause what's called black waterways. So we really need that pH to be kind of sitting in that comfortable about 7 range. We really want when you're drinking water, what your drinking water should be at is about 7. It has a little bit of leeway. It can kind of get in that upper 6 range, that very lower 8 range, but we're kind of hoping it sits right there in that 7. Chlorine is added to our drinking water to help purify it. So a good way to tell if there's any kind of contamination, if there's drinking water in the waterways or something else going on, we can see if chlorine's present in it. Testing for heavy metals, specifically copper, gives us a really good indication if there is industrial contamination. So if there's runoff from manufacturing facilities, from industrial plants, from other things like that, if we're seeing metals in the waterway, something is leaching from some sort of industrial plant into it. Detergents, we all probably know what the word detergent means. It doesn't mean anything else in chemistry. It's a cleaner, a soap, exactly what you're thinking of, which we obviously do not want that in our waterways. Fish don't like being or living in soapy water. Also, many soaps and bleach are basic, and so they have a higher pH, so that's going to go back to 0.1 and alter the pH of the waterway if we're seeing soap or detergents in our waterways. And then phenols are coming from things like oil and gas, like car oil, gas, other kind of carbon-based monomers like that, polymers like that. So we don't want oil. We don't want any of that kind of stuff. Hydrocarbons, that's the word I was looking for. Hydrocarbons in our waterways. Very harmful, very neurotoxic to wildlife. Okay, here's the image, kind of what I was referencing to earlier with this concept that's talked about a lot in public health, called One Health. So you can see at the top of the triangle, we have our human health. So we really, of course, want ourselves. We want our family members. We want our community members to be healthy. We want them to be able to swim and enjoy our waterways, to be able to fish in our waterways, to be just living near waterways and knowing that there's nothing harmful in it that's going to kill them. Then kind of going down to the bottom left, we have our animal health. So once again, that our animals are healthy, that the animals that we fish or we hunt for are healthy and not going to have anything contaminated when we try to eat them. And we really just care about biodiversity. So we're wanting to sustain the stable, healthy wildlife populations. And then on the opposite side of that, we have our environmental health. So we want safe air, we want safe water. This says plant-based foods. We're not necessarily advocating for that. I just really liked this graphic. But also being able to grow things like trees. We need trees for a lot of things. We just need healthy sanitation. So human, animal, environmental health are all endlessly interconnected, and water quality testing helps us manage all three of those. Okay, so here is a pretty comprehensive list of some mitigation techniques to avoid water pollution, specifically stormwater pollution and runoff. So please never, ever, 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 ever dump anything down a storm drain. Only rain down the drain. You shouldn't be dumping any car oil, no paint, no cooking grease, no bacon grease, nothing like that. Please do not dump anything down a storm drain. If you are caught with solid evidence, like someone records you or is taking pictures of you doing this, and it's reported to the county, you will probably most likely appear in court. So please do not do that. It's just bad. It's bad all around. Picking up after your pet is probably the easiest thing you can do. If you're out walking your pet and they use the bathroom, please pick up after them. As we just heard and learned about, there's bacteria that exist in pet waste, and so if you leave that pet waste there, it rains, that water is running down and carrying the bacteria with it to the stream. Now there's E. coli in the stream. Next is making sure to take vehicles to a car wash where if possible, and if that's just not possible, if that's not feasible for you right now, understandable, but wash your car at home with biodegradable soap. Please make sure you're buying an eco-friendly biodegradable soap, and wash it on grass. And you might be like, shouldn't I be washing it on the pavement so that it just goes right down the storm drain? Remember how we were talking about how detergents is something that we do not want in our waterways? So if you're washing your car with biodegradable soap, so that's already check, on grass, then that water and all those residues is soaking into the grass instead of going down a storm drain. And nature will take care of itself, especially if you're using a biodegradable, earth-friendly, eco-friendly, all those good things, grass. Something to keep in mind with that point too is to not use more soap than absolutely necessary. So be very mindful of how much soap you're using. Do the very minimum to get the job done. Going along that same vein of doing the bare minimum is pesticides and herbicides. Of course, we're wanting and encouraging people to plant and encourage the growth of native species, but you're free to plant whatever you like in your backyard. And so if you're needing to use pesticides, if you're needing to use herbicides to get rid of, things that you don't want in your yard, please follow the directions that are listed on the bottle. Please take a moment to kind of read over that, to know how to spray it, to know how to distribute it, and to use it very sparingly, to use it only as needed. Preferably not at all, but that's not always possible. Next is to participate in rain harvesting. So what this basically means is using a rain barrel. And the Lexington County Stormwater Consortium actually holds rain barrel workshops about 4 times a year. So we do 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall. Our next one coming up is on October 5th, and then we have one, I believe it's November 16th. They should both be on Saturdays. So if you're interested in that, you can always check us out. Check out Lexington County on Facebook or head over to our website, and there will always be information on that. But rain barrels are great. You're capturing free water and you're holding it and using it for yourself. So you can use that water for emergency toilet flushes if that's something that happens, especially during hurricane season. If the water's not running in your house, you can use it to wash your car. You can use it to wash your bicycles, to wash all sorts of things. Or if you have a large garden, and then you can set up some sort of irrigation system to use your rain barrel for. Next, probably one of the most easy things to do is please refrain from littering. Anything that you're throwing out of the window, throwing out onto the street, could eventually end up and lead into our waterways. As you can see, this picture right here of the fish inside of a water bottle or plastic straws. Those are just not things that we want to see ending up in our waterways. Over time, these plastics especially can erode and become microplastics, which are ingested by possibly humans, but also aquatic animal species, and that can be just very harmful for the animals. Next is to properly dispose of hazardous waste, and then also fish and game. If you're a big hunter or fisher, please refer to South Carolina's Department of Natural Resources on how to properly dispose of those carcasses. And then South Carolina or Lexington County's Waste and Recycling Department has amazing information on what to do with hazardous waste. They often hold lots of events for lithium-ion batteries, paper shredding events, all sorts of other household hazardous waste materials they frequently hold events for. So please don't just dump it down a storm drain or throw it away in an improper place. Please make sure you're disposing of it properly. And then last, of course, is to frequently check for and remedy car oil leaks. We don't want to see any car oil, gas, anything like that ending up in our waterways. It's very harmful for the ecosystem. So just kind of wrapping up here, just take a moment to kind of ask yourself, like, why is it important to involve local communities in stormwater runoff remediation efforts? By raising awareness through schools, events, public campaigns, we're able to help utilize those mitigation techniques that we talked about to improve our waterways. So kind of to explain the pictures that are here, this top one right here is a harmful algal bloom that actually happened in a stormwater pond. We do not like algae in ponds. We do not appreciate that. Next is just an image of a stormwater drain. So hopefully now that you know a little bit more about stormwater and storm water runoff, next time you drive down the road or walk down the road, take a look at these storm drains. Are they clogged with debris? Is there trash in it? Is there anything nearby that looks suspicious? If so, give us a call. But just kind of keep your eye out, especially ones that are in your neighborhood, and making sure that they're clear from debris. And then, of course, at the bottom, that's just what can happen in lakes, rivers, streams, etc. If we're not taking care of our environment, they end up polluted. It's not good for us. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for animals. And it's just not pretty to look at either. Managing stormwater runoff pollution is a collaborative effort. So the Lexington County-wide Stormwater Consortium, that's me and Vance and other municipalities within Lexington County, we frequently have to work with other state departments and organizations. So of course, Department of Environmental Services and Department of Public Health. They two together used to be DHEC. WSP is our environmental consultants. This is the company that Karen Jackson works for. We love DNR. They're great. And the Congaree River Keeper, his name is Bill. They provide amazing resources to aid us in this effort. So just kind of in closing, let's work together to support our clean local waterways. Do the things that we kind of talked about to keep our waterways free from debris, free from bacteria, free from harm, so that we can enjoy them, the animals can enjoy them, and the plants can enjoy them. If you have any more kind of questions about stormwater, you can head over to our website. It's lcswc.com, so Lexington County-wide Stormwater Consortium.com. We do not have our own social media. We run it through the county, so you can find us on Facebook at County of Lexington SC. And then I think